Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Merci beaucoup. Canadians elected our government with a mandate to keep Canadians safe. However, we know that gender-based violence is not only an ongoing, but it's a serious threat for many Canadians, especially for women and girls. And we've heard many times that often when women and girls do come into contact with the criminal justice system, they're often met with negative experiences and often become re-traumatized. Our government is working on that. We're ensuring that, one, we're investing in preventing gender-based violence. Second, we're strengthening our criminal justice system. And third, providing ongoing support for victims and survivors. In addition to that, we're working with provinces and territories to make sure that we can provide a consistent approach across the country, and we're working very closely with our colleagues to be able to accomplish that. And finally, what we're doing as a government is we're taking an all-of-government approach to making sure that in every aspect we're able to address gender-based violence and prevent it. Whether that's supporting our supports that I've already announced through our budget in November, significant investments through women and gender equality to tackle gender-based violence, introducing a voluntary code of conduct to address financial and economic abuse, and ensuring again through, thanks to the leadership of Minister Sean Fraser, introducing Bill C-16, which is the Protecting Victims Act. Minister Fraser will provide an update to everyone here on his ongoing efforts, but for now I'll pass it over to Parliamentary Secretary Marie-Gabrielle Ménard to speak further.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Très ravie de vous savoir en aussi grand nombre. Ça témoigne de l'importance du sujet. En effet, je pense que sous le grand leadership du ministre de la Justice, mon collègue l'honorable Sean Fraser, le gouvernement a imaginé vraiment une série d'actions main dans la main entre le ministère Femmes, Égalité des genres et le ministère de la Justice. J'ai le grand privilège de siéger au sein du comité permanent de la condition féminine avec Marilyn Gladu, et voilà. Et depuis les dernières semaines, évidemment, plusieurs années avant nous aussi, plusieurs membres ont travaillé à collecter, en fait, les témoignages et les recommandations d'experts en matière de violence coercitive, en matière d'accompagnement plus adéquat des survivants, des survivantes d'actes criminels. Et aujourd'hui, dans les prochains jours, dans les prochaines semaines, évidemment, le ministre de la Justice va déballer ce qu'il a réussi à ficeler vraiment en adéquation avec ce que nous avons entendu. Le Code criminel est un objet vivant, il évolue avec la société et je pense qu'on s'apprête à être en réel dialogue avec le terrain. Merci beaucoup de votre présence aujourd'hui. Évidemment, je cède la parole à l'honorable ministre de la Justice, Sean Fraser.
Excellent. Merci. Juste avant de commencer, je veux offrir un grand merci de mes collègues qui soutenaient ces thèses et qui soutenaient des investissements qui protégeaient les victimes de crimes et qui avançaient des réformes pour lutter contre la violence contre les femmes. Today I wanted to give you an update on two key pillars that feed into our larger public safety strategy. Before I get into the specifics, I want to remind you that the public safety agenda really is being characterized by three key pillars in the work that we do every day. The first is to strengthen Canada's criminal laws. We've seen the Combating Hate Act, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, new tools for law enforcement when it comes to lawful access, and importantly, the Protecting Victims Act, which I'll get into in a little more detail. But it's important to recognize that it takes more than changes to our criminal laws if we're going to build a safer country and offer protection to the victims of crime, and particularly work with the community organizations and the people who are dealing with and surviving gender-based violence. Supporting the front line is going to be a key part of that. That includes not only more resources for law enforcement, but support for community organizations. And finally, we know that we need to make the upstream investments targeted at ending violent crime in the long term by making investments that build healthier people, including in affordable housing, mental health and addictions, and programs that target at-risk youth. Today there are two items that I want to draw your attention to that rest on the first two pillars that I've described. First is Bill C-16. The Justice Committee will complete its study today before they move to clause by clause. I want to say thank you to all the members of the committee, both at Justice and Status of Women, who've contributed their time to considering this bill. I look forward to expeditious adoption, and in particular, I want to say thank you not only to members of the Liberal caucus, but to my justice critic, Mr. Brock, yesterday, who reassured me that they are not looking to play games with either of the Protecting Victims Act or the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. I am hoping that we can see that level of cross-party collaboration when it comes to advancing these bills quickly to offer protection to communities in need. Bill C-16 includes several major changes, including creating a constructive first-degree murder charge for cases of femicide, including following the recommendation of the Status of Women Committee to criminalize coercive control in this country so we can prevent violence in relationships before it takes place and before that violence becomes fatal. We're also moving to address gaps in the law when it comes to using AI deepfakes to circulate intimate images without a person's consent, addressing delays in the justice system because we are seeing too many cases being dismissed without them coming to a final verdict, and we are restoring mandatory minimums in the criminal code to ensure that where serious crimes are committed, there will be serious penalties. But we know that reforming Canada's criminal laws in and of itself is not enough to solve problems around gender-based violence in this country. That's why we are moving forward this year with $50 million in support to help community organizations, provinces and territories, and different initiatives across Canada that will be focused on servicing victims and combating gender-based violence. These funds will contribute to a number of different solutions, including support for child advocacy centres, including support for nearly 150 community organizations that will be revealed over the next number of weeks. It includes new supports that are going to help provinces and territories implement some of the changes, the Canadian Victims Bill of Rights, which is being strengthened in Bill C-16. When we actually back up the changes to the criminal code with serious resources that will allow community organizations and advocates to do the work on the ground, we can help build a safer country. Alors nous connaissons, ce n'est pas assez juste pour changer les lois criminelles, pour protéger les victimes du crime et pour bâtir un Canada plus sûr. Il est essentiel pour soutenir des personnes qui travaillent dans nos communautés pour protéger les victimes au même temps. C'est pourquoi nous avançons $50 millions cette année pour soutenir leurs efforts dans ce regard. It's important that we continue to work with those on the ground who know their communities best, who know the issues best. To those who work in the space, who support victims of crime, who work every day to combat gender-based violence, I want to say thank you. Sincerely, you are helping build a stronger Canada and making our country a safer place to live for all. Merci tout le monde. I'm very happy to take what questions you may have. Thank you.
Minister Fraser, do you expect to make amendments to Bill C-16 when it goes to clause-by-clause review next week?
We're open to the amendments that may come through the committee process. I'm a firm believer in the processes in Parliament. I do believe that they can work. I do believe that they can strengthen the laws that the government puts forward. Of course, at the committee, it's no longer for the minister to be making the amendments. It's for members of the committee. To the extent that they have thoughtful changes that they wish to make, I would invite members from all parties to move them forward. Of course, I'm happy with the bill as it was initially drafted, but if it can be strengthened through a multi-partisan consensus that emerges through that process, it would serve the interests of the bill and, importantly, the interests of Canadians. My only hope is that as parliamentarians in both the House of Commons and Senate consider the possibility of making amendments, that we don't use those amendments to delay the implementation of this bill. We have important protections that are needed in this country. And just to demonstrate this point, we literally have judges from the bench pointing out some of the gaps in the criminal code that need to be closed. Think about the challenges around AI deepfakes being used when it comes to circulating intimate images without a person's consent. When we have judges in courts in Canada saying that this is not a crime despite it being a completely heinous behavior, despite it being criminal in a context that doesn't use AI deepfakes, it begs the question. When is this law going to change? To the extent that there are amendments that are going to be put forward, I welcome a debate on each of them. However, we cannot afford delay. There are too many people who are at risk that deserve the protection of the changes that are being embedded in Bill C-16.
The $50 million that you're speaking about today for victim supports, is this new funding? Was it existing funding that's getting renewed that would have sunsetted otherwise? What is the nature of this funding?
Yeah, so it's we have funded to a similar magnitude this kind of investment before. We're going to be continuing that funding through to next year with an additional approximately $50 million. I think maybe last year it was about 52.6. It's going to be approximately $50 million again. We want to send a signal to the organizations who are doing the work that we value the work that they do. We believe it helps improve public safety in this country. The specific investments made within that umbrella will not necessarily be a continuation of the exact same projects that existed before. For example, one of the reasons that we're working with provinces and territories is because we know some of the changes that are embedded in Bill C-16 will have to be implemented in the courts, which the provinces have primary jurisdiction over when it comes to the administration of justice. This includes things like testimonial aids, which have a new and more prominent role in the Canadian Victims' Bill of Rights after C-16. It includes new rules that help them manage restitution. It includes a number of different things that will ensure victims can fully participate in the criminal justice system. Those nuances may not reflect precisely what existed in previous versions of this fund, so there will be new projects, new initiatives as a result of this funding, but you should see the magnitude of the fund next year continue as in the past, and organizations who rely on this funding should be able to breathe a little easier knowing that there will be another year of support.
And should people who are looking for a faster pace of delivery from the federal government on justice issues be assured that the federal government is going to be moving at a new pace, given that the Liberals now have a majority and will be reshaping the structure of committees to reflect that?
I think Canadians would be right to demand that we make changes and make them quickly. Of course, this is going to require not only the new majority government in the House of Commons to move swiftly, but for the Senate to also consider rapidly the bills that are going to arrive before them. I just would like not to disagree, but maybe clarify a bit of nuance behind that question. I don't want to be taken to say that things have been moving slow to date. Yes, we did have a little bit of delay at the Justice Committee for a few months over the Combating Hate Act, but if you look at the agenda that we have been moving forward with since we have most recently formed government, you'll see a plurality of the bills that have come before Parliament have been on public safety. There's the Combating Hate Act, there was the Strong Borders Act, there is now the Lawful Access Act, we have the Protecting Victims Act, we have bail and sentencing reform. There are a series of others. I should as well say thank you to Minister Nandasangri and Secretary of State Sahota for their extraordinary work in rapidly advancing some of these initiatives, working very closely with provinces and territories, with law enforcement, with experts in the field, with community organizations on the front line. It does take some time, but a lot of these solutions that we're advancing have been well known to public safety experts for many years. We are starting with the things that we know need to happen, and we are moving as quickly as we possibly can. We hope that these bills pass through Parliament as quickly as they can as well.
Thank you.
Okay, merci tout le monde.
Merci.
J'apprécie.
Merci.